Hey guys, what's up, and welcome to another episode of the Good Car Show. And my, do we have an episode for you today? Now, my guest today, you would have heard of them plenty of times a few years ago, but I'll leave the suspense just a little bit and tell you what the topic of today's discussion is going to be. It's surrounding this book, Rendezvous with Injustice, written by Xavier and Laura Justo. Now, of course, the topic is going to center around 1MDB, and as you all know, as Malaysians know, that's a topic that really captured our imagination way back when. But also, just as an avid reader myself, just want to let you all know, guys, this clip will be shared on our very popular section on the YouTube channel called Under Good Books. So please check that out. Again, I'd like to thank Gerak Budaya for making this happen as well, for connecting us with Laura and Javier. And look, guys, I've read this book, but before that, there's many books been written around 1MDB, and we've been lucky enough to interview quite a few of them actually on the channel. So we've had, of course, the famous Billion Dollar Whale. We've had a Sarawak Report. We've had Shattered Hopes by Roman Bose, who came on the channel, and we had a very interesting discussion. And of course, The Edge has also co-authored a book on 1MDB, but this is the other one, Rendezvous with Injustice. Now, interestingly enough, all the books on 1MDB generally take a different perspective or look at the entire scandal from a different lens. For instance, if you had listened to my interview with Roman Bose, you would have noticed that he came from the lens of looking at it from a more political standpoint. He started the book from the infamous Sheraton move, and then working his way back to write the scandal, what happened after BN lost the elections and all that. But of course, his whole thesis was that it wasn't entirely the fault of former PM Najib Razak, which of course I face a lot of heat for even suggesting that on that interview. But this book is very, very, very different. If you guys haven't read it, please get it. The book is available on Gerak Budaya. Now, if you guys have read, for example, books like Billion Dollar Whale, that book focuses very much on the fantastical elements of 1MDB, the purchases, the debauchery, the extravagance. It's a very sensational book. But of course, who can deny that the entire 1MDB scandal was itself a very sensational scandal? But this book is an emotional one, and it focuses on Xavier and Laura Justo. Xavier being the famous whistleblower, who arguably is the man who actually started the wheels of change in Malaysia. Thanks to him whistleblowing on this matter, which we will touch on a lot. And this book basically talks about their journey to that time. As we all know, Xavier then was in prison in Thailand for several years, and how his wife, how his young family, how they all coped. There are plenty of nefarious individuals in this book, people who were manipulative, people who took their compassion, their naivety for a ride. And of course, there's mention of a few popular political figures. One name that's definitely going to be in this book, and we're touching on that as well. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guests today, Xavier and Laura Justo. How are you guys?
Hi,
Hi.
nice to meet
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Nice to meet
Thanks
you
for
all.
having
Thank you
us.
so much. Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on the podcast. So yeah, look, I love this book. Thank you. It's an amazing book that you guys have written. Very different, very emotional. It almost reads like a fiction book. I'm not saying about the content, but the speed of which there's sort of character development in it. I love how it has that Godfather kind of sense where you have two timelines sort of going. You talk about Javier, you talk about Laura's experience and all that. But Laura, I must say this, and no disrespect to Javier, of course, you went through a lot, but I love your character arc in this book. I truly love it. I mean, you start off as this young girl, a banker who's smitten by the very handsome and Javier, and then towards the middle when Javier goes into prison, my goodness, the things you had to deal with, the being a mother, you were taking care of other people. In fact, you're taking care of Javier's mom, your family, friends, and all that. So I just want to get your perspective to start this. How did this entire experience sort of change you?
I think it did change me for sure. I'm the woman I was before, but with a lot more, of course, of experience. I think it grows, it makes you grow, and I think it makes you look at life in a different perspective. For example. maybe insignificant or small thing in life that you tend to appreciate more after this kind of nightmare. And yeah, maybe you know who are here for you, who's there for your family, and how people react, and the love of your family and your friends. That was one of the best thing that happened. I mean, I could see how many people were there for me, my family, and also Xavier. I know he was in prison, but he was still supporting me from inside. And this is, yeah, I think we find something even bigger than what we had before.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. And it really is inspiring. But so now I want to get to you, Javier, about this book. Look, man, I when I was reading this book, I had one question in my mind, and I couldn't answer it, right? And I would like to get your input on this. You seem like you had the perfect life. You were well to do. You had money. You sort of like wanted to retire early. You went to Thailand. You had these projects you wanted to do. You met Laura. You were driving, as you talk about early in the book, how you're driving a sports car and all that. I mean, you had the life. You're a nice guy. You're a good father, good husband. In the book you talk about, which we will touch on later, where your partners or your employers or your friends who were at Petro Saudi, when they were going out, you sort of stayed away. You wanted that calm life. Looking back, do you ever ask yourself, how did I end up at the center of arguably one of the most infamous financial scandals the world has ever seen?
I mean, it has been, and it is still an ongoing adventure. Why a kind of normal guy like me was involved in this gigantic scam? I mean, sometimes in your life you have choices choices to make. Some are insignificant. What color of my tie, where I'm going to have lunch, this kind of insignificant things. And for some of us, not everybody, you will have a choice to make. And the choice was between looking away or trying to do something good, something not good, something normal. When I met Claire, when I met the two guys from The Edge, they opened my eyes about what was going on in Malaysia, what was going on with 1MDB. I mean, the name 1MDB was known, yes, but it was not known for us in Europe or in the UK as a corruption machine. So once they showed me, the three of them, Claire, Tong, and Keta, that what was the 1MDB corruption machine was working. Yeah, so no choices. I mean, it was just a normal thing to do, just give the files and try to open the eyes of justice about what was going on.
Yeah. And
I mean,
thank you for doing that. Yeah, go on.
Just to go back to Laura, I mean, I'm seen from time to time as the kind of hero of the story. I just did something normal. I gave evidence about some wrongdoings. This is something that should be normal. Choosing between the bad and the good. So I'm not a hero. I'm just a guy that did something normal. The real heroine in the story is my beautiful wife, as you said.
Yeah, definitely. Look, let's just paint some context around this entire book. In this book, like I said, it is written in a very in a style that is very fast-paced and emotional. There's character development and all that. So, in that light, the protagonist of this book would be you, Javier, and as well as Laura, and then you have two other people, the main antagonists in this movie, in this story, which is Tariq and Patrick, right? I just want to get a sense for you so that people sort of remind people, who are these two people to you and in this entire story?
So Tarek, at the time of Petro Saudi, was one of my 3 best friends. I knew him for like probably 10 years at that time, or more than 10 years, 15 years. He was my very good friend. He was my kind of a little brother. That's Tarek. Patrick was one of the best friends of Tarek. I met him a few times. I will not consider him as a good friend. Let's say a friend of a friend, good looking, nice talker, but as we said, too good to be true.
Mm.
But I got along with him when we were doing businesses. I didn't interfere or join in their nice adventures. So
Yeah.
Tarek was a very good friend of mine, one of my very best friends, and Patrick was just the friend of a friend.
Now, of course, I mean, I'm sure you've been asked these questions many times. I think you were even asked this question in an interview you did with Star about 6 years ago. I was going through your YouTube. Now, the sort of one of the most infamous characters in this entire scandal is Joe Low, right? And he's mentioned sparingly in this book as well, here and there. Now, in this book, there is a line where you say that Tarek and Patrick were basically using Joe Low, as the term was used, their personal piggy bank. How were they using him as their personal piggy bank?
Uh, in this whole story, everybody has been using the other one. So and they are all innocent when you listen to them, but everybody has been using the others to get billions or hundreds of millions of dollars in their bank account. So Patrick and Tarek, let's say the Petro-Saudi side needed the money, and Malaysia, 1MDB had the money. 1MDB, meaning Jolo and Najib, needed a front to take the money out of Malaysia, so they needed to use the services of Patrick and Tarek. And Jolo was the middleman between the Malaysian side and the Petro-Saudi side.
But in this book also, I again sparingly you talk about Jolo. What was your opinion of the man when you met him?
I mean, I met him in 2000. I think it was 10 and 11. At that time, his character was not known. We didn't know what was going on with him. So I met the guy 2 times. One time in London, and the second time in the south of France. I barely spoke with him because I was asked not to speak with him. He was, I would say, with or without respect. I mean, I don't care about this criminal. It didn't impress me a lot.
Okay. Now, again, when in this book, of course, there is a bit of, I would say, lighthearted moments. One of them is, of course, when you talk about how Najib and Tarek were very close. And you also said that apparently Najib wanted Tarek to be his son-in-law. Is it true? I mean, was that actually true?
I mean, I don't have any evidences of that. I can tell you the real story. The true story. Tarek exited his office in London after a call with Najib, and he said to me and Patrick, "Hey guys, the Prime Minister wants me to marry his daughter." So whether it's true or not, I don't know. I wasn't participating to the call, but
we will take Tarek at his word then.
It's strange to invent something like this.
Yeah, it is. But it was one of the lines that go, wow, I did not know this. So Laura, again, I mean, you guys were you had plans, you wanted to go to Thailand and you wanted to settle down and all that, right? You guys were going to basically live a life that was the envy of everyone today, who wants to retire early, have a good time and all that. Were you ever concerned during the early days when Xavier was at Petro Saudi? Were you ever, suspicious of anything, or did anything seem out of place for you?
I was not really, because I know that Xavier usually always know what he's doing. So he's kind of a responsible man. Let's put it this way. So no, I was not really concerned at the beginning. It's only really when he got arrested that I realized, and it hit me that how far it could go. And this was really the moment I realized how bad it was. But before, no, because I know Xavier, and as he didn't realize himself how big the scam was, I was just trusting him, and he was trusting his sense. So no, before he was arrested, not really.
I would never have embarked my family on,
Yeah, he would
on
have never
this.
done that if he would
Yeah.
have known the consequences for us. So
I think all of us didn't know until all the information came out, and it shocked everyone. The gratitude, I mean, the whole magnitude of it. My goodness, it shocked the world.
yeah.
Now, in this, while you are at Petro Saudi, of course, there is a section in this book where you talk about PDVSA, and their dealings with them and all that. And there is a very interesting part where you talk about how one of your clients was actually Venezuela, and how the ministers or the politicians in that country were very eager to work with Petro Saudi simply because they wanted investment into their country, right? Do you think that this was perhaps the same situation that happened in Malaysia in the case of perhaps Jolo and Najib, where other politicians or other entities in Malaysia just wanted to see more investment, more business? That's why they all sort of rallied behind 1MDB and supported it at first, until we then realized the entire fiasco that it was.
I do think there is quite an important difference between the 1MDB and the PDVSA, the Venezuela side. I don't think that anyone in PDVSA knew that Petro Saudi was a scam company. I'm quite sure they were convinced that Petro Saudi, in a way or in another, was a kind of a arm of the Saudi family, and they were thinking that by giving Petro Saudi such good contracts, this will maybe attract some investment from the Saudi royal family. That's a slightly difference. I don't think, but I may be wrong. We'll see the judgment. I don't think that Najib Razak, if you want to talk about him, had any idea. He knew that everything was a scam. Otherwise, I don't want to go through all the trial again, but he received some hundreds of millions. He knew. For me, he knew, but that's up to the justice to prove it. So for me, in Venezuela, they really were abused by Petro Saudi. I don't think that in Malaysia anybody was abused except the people of Malaysia. For the rest, it was just a financial scandal where these criminals, everybody took a part of the pie.
Yeah. Now, again, of course, one thing that is common in this book, as well as things that happened related to 1MDB, was, of course, your talk about the this lavish, this debauchery, the lives that were led by, as you call it, the nocturnal habits of Tariq and Patrick. And when I read that part, I sort of, that there's a scene where you talk about how I think you all went to Las Vegas and Tariq gambled all his money away. Then there's a pool filled with women, and it just made me think of Wolf of Wall Street, which is quite similar, right?
Yes.
It sort of was that thing, and ironically enough, it was funded by 1MDB money. So I just want to get your sort of, if you could help us go back into time to that moment. How crazy was the lifestyle that Tariq and Patrick were living?
Just to correct you, he was not spending his money; he was spending your money.
That's true. That's why I'm still paying taxes for it. Yeah.
No, you will pay taxes for a few more years. Yeah. Those are, when you reach this level of craziness, your only meat is your brain. So, Tarek and his former partner, Prince Turkey, I was there. So they were gambling at the blackjack. I don't know if people are familiar with the blackjack, but once you eat 17 or 18, you stop. And then even if they at 20, they were still asking for one more eat to try to reach the 21, which
my goodness,
happens once every 100 times. So one of the managers of the casino, he knew who I was pretty much. I was always around them. He said, "Can you tell your friends that the point of the game is to win? It's not just to try to get the 21." And for the rest, yes, the pool was filled with the prostitute and so on. With stolen money, it's quite easy to do whatever is in your mind, whatever your vices, whatever your fantasies are. With stolen money, there is. It's more. I hate all these depraved ways of living, but if you do it with your own money that you have earned through work, Why not?
Yeah.
This is your choice. I'm not judging anybody here, as long as it's not illegal. But to do that with stolen money from the Malaysian people, which I'm sorry to say that it's not a criticism, but it's not a rich country yet. So to steal that money from poor fishermen, poor farmers, to spend that money with gambling, prostitutes, renting yachts, buying yachts, renting jets. It is what it is. I mean, I have no words to describe that. It's just purely illegal, disgusting, and I do hope that they will end up in jail.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Even when I read it and I watch, when I read even books like Billion Dollar Whale and all that, the extent of the way the money was being spent was just sometimes you don't even know whether is it real or is it. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. I've never seen anything like that. Now, you talk about, of course, and I just want to get your thoughts on this because this is a question I had while I was reading the book, is that despite the issues that were appearing while you were at Petro Saudi, right? Even early on, there was somebody who asked you whether is the money coming from Malaysia, is it legal, right? And your answer was, I came here under the notion that it is legal, right? That was your initial thought about it, right? And then you see, the arrangements, the office, and the shady dealings with the PDVSA, and you were lied to. You lost. I mean, I think the promised salary was not given; it was reduced. Why didn't you leave them at that point and say, "Look, something is up. I'm not going to be here anymore for this." Why did you stay?
It's not a straight answer. First, remember, as I said, at that time, Tarek Obeid was one of my 2-3 best friends. So I never saw him as a potential criminal. I always saw him as a different guy from a nice, wealthy family. In a way, crazy, but not crazy enough to steal billions of dollars, not even to steal tens of millions. So I went there. I was paid, I don't know, 5 months out of 12. But that's okay. I was not in need of money at that time. I mean, I was not in need of money at that time. That's a fact. I never clearly saw a smoking gun. As it's written in the book, okay, they bought. Tarek bought a flat there. Patrick a house. There were always expensive dinners bill, but as long as you don't see the proof of the evidence, it's only suspicions. We're talking about dealings in oil business. There is a certain amount of money there. So for me, I never saw, when I say so clearly, an evidence of something illegal. We discovered that later on when we analyzed the database that we had with Claire and the one that I gave to Tong and Kate. Yes, but prior to that, doubts, maybe. Suspicions, maybe. Formal evidences, no.
Okay.
No,
sorry, go on, please.
If I would have seen something illegal, I would have left immediately. I mean, we were very happy with Laura in Thailand. We came back because the idea of getting back to Europe for a couple of years, to be in London, which is a beautiful city, that yes, it was interesting. It was not anything done for the money. So if I had seen anything illegal, I would have left immediately.
No, yeah, sure. And I do see that. But just another question I had. I'm sorry, I had some questions in my head when I read this book, right? And one of it was that, of course, when you finally leave Petro Saudi, there is a moment where you meet your friend, who's an IT expert that you brought on to Petro Saudi. I think he's referred to as ST, if I'm not mistaken. And you asked for the server content.
It's very easy to find. It's very easy till today to find who ST is. Just check on the Swiss registry entry of enterprises, who is the actual director of the company.
All right, I'm going to check that out. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I just want to ask you, because at this point, I think in the book you have an altercation or you have a disagreement with Tariq, right? He gets out of control. He starts accusing you of things, and you just leave. And this happens twice. The first time you sort of come back, but the second time you said, no, I have enough, I'm leaving. And then you meet ST, and he's giving you the hard drive with all the data and all that kind of stuff. He's giving it to you. You didn't ask for it, he gave it to you, right? Now,
I
I'm
asked
just
for it.
curious.
I asked for it.
You asked for it, but then I think in the book you say that you had no idea that he had it with him already, or something
No,
like
at
that.
that moment,
Right?
when I asked for it, he had it with him. So obviously he knew
Perfect.
where I was
Yeah.
coming in.
But my question is, why did you ask for it when you were not enjoying it? There were so many red flags. Why don't you just take a clean break and say, you know what, enough of this, let's just leave. I don't want to be involved in it.
I mean, it was quite a smart move for Malaysia for me to have this.
Yes, it was. Thank you very much on behalf of all Malaysians.
You're very welcome. Now, in my mind, as I said, I never saw any illegal things during my time. I saw a couple of suspicious things. A lot of money was spent. So my mind was only, I need that because if one day it's described or it's proven that it's a scam or there is some illegal activities in Petro Saudi, I just want to prove that when the alleged joint venture was done, I was not part of Petro Saudi. That was my only intention when I asked for a copy of the data.
Okay, fair enough. And as you said, we are all indebted to you for having that copy.
There is no
Now, again, I mean, there are some not crazy, but I mean, very shocking and eye-raising things mentioned here. Like one of it was that Tony Blair was on the Petrosaudi's payroll. Is that true?
I mean, for a few months, yes, when we were in London, Tarek and Patrick wanted to try to enter the Chinese market. And at that time, there was this Tony Blair Associates company. And they hired him for a few months. Don't ask me how many months because time has been passing and I don't remember exactly. Don't ask me the exact amount that he was paid because I don't remember exactly. It was a few tens of thousands of euros for a few months. And but nothing came out of this.
Okay.
Tony
No,
Blair
I'm just asking. Because it is such a shocking thing.
They hired him as a consultant to try to leverage his contact in China mainly, but it didn't work out.
Okay, fair enough. Now let's get to the mid part of this. And Laura, this is where you suddenly come up. And I love the fact in the book, right? I love this part of the book. And I do love it. I really applaud you all for going the route of these two authors kind of co-authoring the book together. I loved it. And this is where, Laura, your character sort of comes up because initially you're like this young girl. Like I said, you're smitten by, the very handsome man that's sitting with us today. But then you sort of shine, right? You come out. And then I like how Javier sort of takes a step back. Like in the writing, you sort of disappear into the back. Although I know you're going through a very tough time, a crazy time. But Laura, you come up. So Laura, I just want to ask you about this because in the book, you talk about all the things you had to juggle. You see your husband is in jail and in Thailand of all places. You guys are Swiss. It's I'm sure it's a different world from Thailand. How are you keeping your head up when all this is happening?
Well, good question. To be honest, I don't think at the time there was so many things going on. Honestly, I only realized this when Xavier came out. But at the moment, it's like when something happens in life, it's a kind of, I don't know, it's a kind of warning in you, and you find the strength to go beyond what you ever did and to be stronger that you ever did because you have to. You have a son, you have a husband in jail, and you have so many things going on. And what is crazy is that I was not part of this kind of world before. Because I was living a quiet life. I always had a normal life with my parents, normal childhood. So it's like I was parachuted in a kind of, crazy life. And to see how the world works, because you're not used to dealing with lawyers, fake policemen. I was threatened many times by Patrick. Every time he didn't get what he wanted, he would threaten me. I mean, it was so crazy, but at the time, I don't think I really realized. what was going on, and I just kept fighting and taking and doing things, and I only took my head out of the water when he came out, and
No,
that was the moment I said, "Wow." I think
no, just to add on that, one thing I love in this book was that I think there were 3 conversations that you had with Patrick. In this
yeah,
book, you did 3. My
yeah,
goodness, I mean, when I was reading, I was thinking about the movie. I said, "Oh, this would be a really interesting part in the movie if you make it." So, well done to you, Laura.
thank
Really
you,
amazing. Yeah.
thank you.
So Xavier, again, you then go into prison, and you share some pretty interesting details. Again, I would implore on you to elaborate on that. But before that, let me just paint some context for the viewers. So he mentions that you're put in place in the cell 7, where there is a tank that everyone uses for various things. And Laura, please forgive my crudeness here, but it's written in the book. Where you say that some inmates sort of masturbate in public. I mean, they pee in the. I mean, can you please elaborate the conditions you were living in this prison?
I mean, it's quite difficult to elaborate or to describe. I mean, it's um, whatever you find disgusting, it's a step above that. It's. I mean, it's. I have no. I mean, I have no problem speaking about that. It doesn't traumatize me anymore. But it's. How can you want to describe it? It's. You dig a hole in your garden. You put a water tank just close to it with a small bucket. You fill your garden with 50 people naked, and they will go to this all night long to do whatever the body needs to do. So the number 1, the number 2, and after they will try to find some other activities. Masturbation is one of them, and the second one could be sexual intercourses, if we want to describe that in a polite way.
Wow. And you I mean, the prison sounded really terrible, right? And there are moments where also in the book where it's very tragic, where I think in the conversations you're having with Laura when she comes visits you, where there are moments where you break, right? That there are moments where you say, I can't take it, and I can't do this anymore. And then Laura, I mean, how did you survive that time there?
There are a few steps when you live through this experience. The first few days you just want to die, because I mean, I'm not a criminal. I never went to prison. I was used to these kind of things, except in the movies. So to sleep naked on the ground without mattresses, with the lights above your head for all night, to be locked in since like for 3 in the afternoon until 6 in the morning without doing anything. You're not sure you can make it through. After you slowly get used to that, as long, I mean, and I don't want to take too much time of this, as long as you are supported by the people that you love and that loves you, it's doable. It's not an easy task. I mean, it's the most difficult period of my entire life. I spent 547 days like an animal, not even an animal. I would treat an animal better than they do treat prisoners in these kind of prisons. But Laura was there for me. I had a lovely son. She was fighting. And again, going back to Laura, inside the prison, a tight prison, I don't know any other prisons, and I don't want to know any other one. You have just to protect yourself for any kind of problems. Avoid the gangs, avoid the violence, avoid sexual intercourses. And that's pretty much it. You have just to take care of yourself, be smart enough to avoid problems, and just mix with the good people and avoid the bad ones. That was my only duty. That's it. Laura, she had to deal with a young baby. He was 8 months old when I was arrested. She had to deal with the media campaign against me, with some, as you said, bad people, fake journalists, corrupted judges, corrupted politicians, corrupted policemen. My previous friends or colleagues or employer, Tarek and Patrick. She had a lot to handle. I had pretty much to handle myself and to protect. I was going to say my ass, but forgive me this, because
Go ahead.
it can be seen as I mean, I had to just protect my physical integrity.
Just pausing on that, Laura, there is a moment in this book where you are talking to you're talking to Claire, who I'm of course referring to the founder of Sarawak Report, and you are basically she suggests to you to counter the news that is coming out about Javier, or by basically having your own narrative out there to basically combat this Petro Saudis news and articles and all that. Your response was to her was that you were being controlled by the people of Petro Saudi. So, which you also write in this book. I mean, this detail, but just for our sake, to what extent were you being controlled?
To every extent. I mean, you can't possibly imagine the mental torture they tried to put me through. They didn't succeed at the end, but I mean, it was, of course, the first thing was they were holding me with Xavier and his help. So first it was, you have to do interview. You have to say that your husband is a very bad man. You have to make sure to say that we are innocent. And if, please do that. And I didn't want to do that at first. And Patrick just threatened me to say that, well, he was going to change Xavier's cell. I will not be able to see him again, that he could basically kill him in prison. And then when it went further, it went to the point that they told me that one day they could take my son and arrest me also and put me in prison the same way they did with Xavier. And they looked at me and they say, you know where your son is going to end up? He's going to end up in an orphanage. So, yeah, that was the very worst part. That when they told me that, I thought I was going to die, because having your husband in jail is something, but threaten you with your child, with your baby, this is unhuman. What Patrick did, he's a father. How can you do that? And this is how desperate they were and how far they went. And even when I came back, Claire was telling me to take out the truth and that we could do a campaign media. So, but to do that, to be able to do this, I needed to be back in Geneva, because I was safe in Switzerland with my son. And this is the point when they threatened me with my son, and they threatened me to put me in prison also. This is the moment when I said, look, I have to go back to Switzerland, and this is the only way I'll be safe, and the only way I can really help Xavier. And that was the turning point, actually.
I mean, but I think there is one part in this book where you talk about how Patrick, when I think in one meeting with you, he sort of shares pictures of his wife, compromising pictures of his wife and all that. And I don't think of the word father should be used to label him.
No, absolutely not. You're right, because a father is someone who cares about his children. And I don't think it was kind of completely disgusting. I think he was pretty high or drunk, and he was in between showing off his wife, who was pregnant at the time. I mean, what kind of how far of disrespect you go to do something like that. And I was not understanding why you would do that, just to think that, I don't know. He was trying to convince me to do more interviews. He was trying to be my friend and so nice. And at the moment I said no, he turned on me and he threatened me. And he's evil, to be honest. They're evil. Yeah.
Now, Javier, when you were sentenced, you in this book, you say that there were forces in Malaysia whom intended to lock you away till the end of May 2018, which was at that time the scheduled GE or elections that were happening. Who were these people?
I mean, you really want me to answer that? Really?
Come on, man.
Okay.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, I've been. This has been said to me through. I mean, thanks. I can't reveal the name, but through some Swiss authorities. A couple of days before my transfer to Switzerland in September 2016, I was due to be transferred to Switzerland thanks to a treaty agreement between Thailand and Switzerland. So a couple of days before, and I signed all the documents inside the prison for my transfer. The Swiss embassy confirmed that everything was done. The Department of Correction confirmed it was done. Even in the newspaper, the Bangkok Post, it was said. And out of nowhere, Mr. Najib Razak, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, went on a visit to Bangkok. I mean, it's easy. You can check that on Google.
Yeah, it's in the book as well.
A few days prior to my transfer, so he came to visit, and I was on the agenda of the discussions, and my transfer was denied, and I had to stay inside this beautiful facility.
Actually, I had the confirmation through not only the Swiss authority, but the US authority, because I was in contact with them quite often. And whenever all the papers were done, and like Xavier said, he was ready to be transferred to Switzerland. And the authority called me and they told me that Xavier was actually number one on the list of Najib. Number one, as what they should
discussion point.
Discussion points to make sure that he should stay in prison.
And I did.
And he did, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, you worked a lot with Claire, and I think, Laura, you were the one who also, after Xavier went in, I think you also worked a lot with Claire. You talked with her, and I think you were also part of, I think, a lot of the revelations that came out from her side, right? Yes. Since you spoke with her a lot and you guys had a very nice relationship, what sort of opposition did she face when she was releasing these articles?
Well, first she was facing arrest in Malaysia, I know, but I know that at one point she was scared to be how do you say, to have troubles mostly in Malaysia due to the government that was in place. But in Switzerland and in UK, she knew she didn't face a lot of risk because when you're a journalist and you are taking out proof and you're saying the truth, the criminal cannot attack you. And this is why Petro-Saudi Patrick or Tarek or Najib or Jolo never attacked really Claire or us for what we said. Because if I accuse someone wrongly, you will come after me. And because you're telling the truth, this never happened. Yeah.
So let's get to the next part of this book, where, of course, at this point, Xavier is in prison, and Laura, you are the one sort of leading the whole charge. There's a very inspiring moment where you sort of, I think you had a bad day, things were really bad, but then you said, no, you're going to fight on and really challenge the people who are controlling you, who are stopping Xavier from coming out and all that stuff. Now, there is, speaking of which, then there is, as I mentioned earlier, there are plenty of amazing conversations that you had with Patrick, 3 in particular in this book, fantastic conversations. The second one was a face-to-face meet where as he grips your hand and, but that came after you standing up to him. So why is it that after so many times of submitting to them, what made you say, you know what, I had enough is enough, now I'm going to stand up against the bully?
Because that was the deal. They hired and introduced this fake policeman, Paul Finnegan. Okay, this is crazy.
From Scotland, right?
supposedly
Scotland Yard. Sorry, Scotland Yard.
Scotland Yard, yeah.
Yeah.
So they hired him, they paid him to take the confession of Xavier. And I mean, this fake policeman, Paul Finnegan, and Patrick himself, they were telling me all the time, look, we just need one interview. Once the boss, meaning Najib Razak, which we can hear him talking about in one of the conversation I have with him, he's talking about him. He said, once you convince Najib that Xavier is not a danger to him, we can make him go out from the back door of the prison tomorrow. I just need this from your part. And I was, of course, when you see that you're powerless and they managed everything. So, of course, you believe, you try, you do anything to take care of someone you love, you know. And at one point, you just realize that it wasn't true and that this is never going to happen. And I think I reached the point where, okay, you lied to me. I did everything, almost everything you wanted to. And I know you're manipulating me, but that's it. And I think when you have nothing to lose, this is where you just say, okay, that's it. And you fight back.
Yeah. Javier, just to get back to you, there, of course, in the early part of the book, Tarek is a very he's mentioned a lot, but after that he sort of goes silent, and Patrick sort of takes the lead. So I'm just curious, what happened to Tarek during the time when Patrick was coming to the prison, meeting your wife, and what was happening to Tarek then?
I mean, Patrick is a doer. Okay. Tarek is not a doer. Tarek is unable of doing anything with his two hands or with his brain. So he only knows how to find nice contact to do things. Patrick, he's a doer. I mean, he does deals. He's, and I despise the guy, but he is able to do deals. He's able to find a strategy to put his friend inside the prison. He will find a strategy to hire an ex-policeman and to convince him to look like an ex-Scotland Yard officer. So Tarek is unable. Tarek was probably seated in his flat, drinking and doing other illegal activities, probably, and he let Patrick run the show because he's unable to run the show.
Another moment in this book, which would sort of be quite like a shocking moment, was when you were brought to court suddenly. Your bail application was reviewed. Apparently, I could be getting this wrong, but in the court, it was ruled that the judge did not receive the cancellation notice or the rejection, and finally they approved your bail. But then you said no, you stayed back, you refused the bail. Why?
I mean, Thailand, you have proceedings. You don't write a letter and just say, I don't want to go to bail. It's an official procedure. Your lawyer goes to the court. He has to file an affidavit, pay. It's a stamp. It goes inside the system. It's not like in the Middle Ages. So the moment when they say you have to go to the prison for the bail application, I said no. And after I said, okay, yes, it will take me one day off this ugly place. I said, okay, they will drive me in a private van, we'll go to the court, spend a few hours, go back. I will see some flowers on the outside. I will see some trees, and that's a day off of my misery. But the moment we entered the building, it was like in a movie. It was like all the doors were closing. There was nobody inside. It was very strange. And there was a journalist, I think, from Singapore that was there, and I had to say 10 times, please get me back to prison. I don't want the bail. I don't want to be freed. I don't want the appeal to be. Bring me back to prison. I'm not that stupid, but something was fishy. Last time Laura was there for my bail request, it was denied, and that out of nowhere, at night, they wanted to release me in the middle of the outskirts, the outside of Bangkok. The prison facility is outside. You don't see living people around there. So why on earth did they want me to free me? at night outside the prison without my wife, without the Swiss authorities.
At the last minute.
At the last minute, it was, and I know why. I mean, that will be something that I will develop another time. But yes, it was, something was wrong. And again, I'm not that stupid. Believe me, if I had to choose to go back to the prison or go back to see my lovely wife and my son, I mean, the choice was obvious. If I decided to go back to prison, it was because, and I'm convinced, and so one day the story will come out, they wanted to kill me inside the prison. They want to kill the messenger.
That's for a second book.
Oh, so you won't be sharing it here? Okay.
No,
Trailer.
no, we can just say that if Xavier didn't want the bail, and I know it's there was real reason to think that at the end they maybe wanted him out just for a few hours so he could disappear. So this is.
But that's an interesting thing that you all bring up, because again, I mean, why didn't that? I mean, we're talking about a Thai jail here. We're not, it's.
I know where you want to go. They could have done it in jail, but they tried.
In the jail, yeah.
Yeah, they tried.
Oh, okay, all right.
They tried. Well, this is this is a subject that we are dealing with it right now.
Oh, okay.
But let's say that it's going to come out soon. But we have proof that they tried to kill him in prison.
You can go on my LinkedIn page, and it's a post from like 3 weeks ago. You get some more details.
So
okay.
So yeah.
Okay. We will leave that. But wow, that's amazing. I'll check it out.
There is no limit for these people are crazy. When you do this, when you steal that billions from poor people, when you send your very best friends to jail to protect your money, when you threaten a young innocent wife of going to prison, when you threaten to send a baby of not even a year to an orphanage, is that you are mentally crazy. So there is no limit for crazy people. They could have, if they didn't succeed, because I was quite lucky. But if they had to kill my mother to protect their money, they will kill my mother.
Yeah. My goodness.
I mean, you're Malaysian. You know what happened to Kevin Moraes?
Yes.
Cuban
Hawk.
To protect money, people are crazy and they have no limitation. I mean,
especially with this amount of money, people kill for less than this. So when you reach this kind of number, and they were already a little bit insane before this. I mean, that's just.
If you have 10 million, you can do a couple of things, but you are very limited in terms of corruptions, bribery, killing attempts. When you have hundreds of millions or even billions, your only limit is the other side will they accept whatever you ask or not. You can try to bribe a guy to kill somebody for 10,000. He wouldn't say no. If you give him 100 millions, probably he will kill a lot of people.
My goodness. Yeah, that makes, definitely. But, Javier, while you are in prison, I think also in the book, I think that there are moments when, Laura, when you wanted to do certain things outside or you wanted to make certain moves, but you always had to consider about Javier's safety in prison, obviously, right? Because they were controlled by the people of Petro Saudi and all that. And I think there's a part where Patrick comes to the jail and then everyone seems to know him and he's been there before, as you say. So Javier, while you were in prison, of course, there is a moment where Aziz, he wanted you, Laura, to actually release the tape, which was a recording of edited recording of Claire, right? But you said no, you were adamant, you didn't want to release it. So during this time, Javier, did you notice any differences in the way you were protected? Maybe sometimes you weren't, or things were allowed to happen to you while you were in prison as punishment?
I mean, when you reach that level of loneliness, of despair, it was, yes, I felt a kind of difference, but when you are down under a little bit more, a little bit less, I saw a kind of difference, yes.
I mean, the books that you didn't receive,
Yeah, so,
the exercises that you
yeah,
didn't
they
do.
deprived me to go outside to exercise. They deprived me of.
Even me, when I was going back to prison, I would stay for hours because Patrick was not there to authorize and to pay people for me to enter the prison. So they blocked my access at one point. I had to wait 8 hours. Sometimes I couldn't see him. And this is not normal because usually you just go to the prison, give the name of the prisoner, and you can go to see him within 30 minutes. So he was the only one with this kind of system.
Of course, your life definitely were impacted financially, because there's a lot of talk about in this book where you had to bribe guards, you had to, do a lot of, you had to pay lawyers. There was also, I think, the first lawyers who defended you, Javier, who actually took some money for themselves as well. You gave them your card and then it went missing, right? I mean, how did it impact you all on that level, on the financial scale? How did this entire incident or this entire 2 years happen? I mean, affect you?
As of today or at the time?
I mean, from where you were and until now, what was the impact that you faced?
It's, I took my retirement. We went to Thailand when I was in my mid-40s. Now I'm in my mid-50s, reaching the end of my 50s, unfortunately. And I had a very stable financial situation. I did well. I mean, now it's more difficult, but it is what it is. Actions have consequences. I think we did. I don't want to say I did. We did something good. We fought for something of value, the truth. It impacted us financially, yes, a lot, yes, but it is what it is. I mean, we can't go back in time. I don't want to go back in time. We have been through worse than that. I mean, being inside the prison, looking at your wife tormented and thinking that your son may be arrested, that's a much worse situation than any kind of financial problems.
Definitely. Now, as we go down the book, I think there's a moment, Laura, again, I think this was the final sort of meeting you had, not the final, but I'm not sure whether it's the final one, but there was one conversation you had with Patrick where he walks away. He's upset with you because you sort of, you're very standoffish with him. And at the end of this conversation, you look at Aziz and you say your friend is easily offended. That was the end of this conversation. I just want to get an idea, after that conversation, what happened? How was Patrick's treatment of you, this entire team of people? How did they change after that? Did they get more desperate? Did they try to do different, worse things?
Well, that was the last meeting when I saw him in one of the biggest hotel in Geneva, the President Wilson. So he needed my help, and I had already done the interview with Claire, but it wasn't aired yet. So I knew that within the next week, everything was going to come out. So it was quite easy that day to tell him that I was not going to deal with him anymore. And I just went a little bit out of curiosity, maybe not vengeance, but just to see him. I knew it was the last time I was going to see Patrick. So that was it. He was very offended that he saw the change. I was not desperate anymore because I was going to do something else. And after a few days, Geneva is a small town, and they had contacted the media because Claire had organized a press conference. So they were aware that I was going to do a press conference and take everything out. So this Aziz called me at the demand of Patrick Mahoney, and they threatened me one last time, saying that they were going to take out the conversation I had with Xavier in prison, And I just looked at Aziz and I say, this is the dumbest thing you could ever
Yes,
do.
that's true.
Because
That's true.
it's
They would have
proof
incriminated
that
them. Yeah,
you
yeah,
are
yeah.
you are recording the prison. How stupid are you? And this at this moment, I felt so good because it just showed how desperate they were. And it was a stupid move. And yeah, I was kind of happy to be honest. So I went on with the press conference, the interview, and I was so scared for Xavier's safety. But actually, Claire was right, and it did protect him and us. So yeah.
So, of course, then we come to the sort of moment in this book, Javier, that you finally come out of prison. So just walk us through that moment as you see. There's one part where you see the door is just about 50 meters away. Just go through the feelings that you're going through and coming out. Man.
I mean, I spent 547 days in jail, as I said. I had a lot of swimming, but the day of my release, like from the moment I woke up till I saw Laura and Xander at the airport in Geneva, is like yesterday. I mean, if I was a painter, but I'm not, I could describe every flower, tree. I mean, it was very strange. So, I mean, you have to spend like, you're in Thailand, you spend hours praying in the morning before your release. There are a few documents to fill in. And after the door opens and the guard told me that the Swiss embassy was there, that the special forces of Bangkok, the SWAT team, let's say, of the police was there to escort me to the prison. So to the airport, sorry, from the prison to the airport. So, I mean, the way up to the airport is nice, but the real moment of freedom, even if I'm still like kind of prisoner before being expelled from the country, but you are free, no more handcuffs. You are roaming through to the airport with the guy just to escort you to the gate. I was with the Swiss ambassador, but this moment when I entered the Suvarnabhumi International Airport, in the colors, because in prison everything is gray, the smell, the perfumes, people smiling like Laura. I was like a kid the first time he goes to the candy shop. I mean, it's stupid, but it is like yesterday. I mean, I do remember the colors of the dresses and the smell of perfume. Normal people, like not ugly tattooed. I mean, I have a few tattoos, but I'm not tattooed around my face. Like, I mean, it's the smell and the color of the dress. It's like yesterday.
Interesting. You, of course, another character in your book is your son. You know, I'm a parent myself, and I can't imagine being away from my kids that long in this. I mean, I just can't imagine. It's a different thing. How did he take all of this?
Can I tell a funny anecdote? I mean, it was.
Please, go ahead.
Laura she has a lot to say about that. So we have a cat like roaming around. Go, run. And we have yes. So yeah, I go back to my story, and the moment I went back to Geneva and we were like living together as a family, I have this. I mean, of course, he knew who I was because Laura spent every day telling that your dad is coming, but she will explain that. But he was seated. He always was sitting between us, and like slowly, gently, was like 2 years old, like pushing me away just to be close to her mother. Like, but first me and you go. It was so sweet.
Yeah, because he was like 1.5 when he came out, and it's true. I was showing him, picture of daddy, but when they're 8 months, they know who the parents are. But if you leave for 1.5 year at this age, it's difficult when you. So thanks God, in a way, he was so small because he can't remember this. It's not like he was 10 or something like this. So it didn't traumatize him or anything. And it took just a few weeks, like Xavier said, because he was like, I know it's my son.
Be accepted.
So I don't want to share mom anymore.
I mean, then of course you come out and you guys are where you are today. In the book, you do go in briefly or about sort of like the cases that you guys have actually put up against people and all that. Who are some of the people that you guys have sort of brought to attention in terms of the cases and the people that you guys have
Could complain against, you mean?
yeah complain against, yeah, sorry.
So we filed 2 complaints. I mean, I will leave the second one for Laura. The first one, we filed a complaint in Switzerland, in Geneva, against Patrick Mahoney and Tarek Obeid for a few criminal activities, threatening, endangering life,
Money laundering,
bribery of foreign official, and others that I don't remember. But I mean, our case, and I mean, it needs a little bit of explanation. At the same, first we filed a complaint in October 2017.
Yeah.
Immediately after, the Swiss authorities they also opened their own investigation. So what happened is that our complaint was dismissed. I mean, for a few reasons that technicalities, no jurisdiction, too much time passed, blah 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 blah. But the important point that the main charge where they have been sentenced in Switzerland is aggravated money laundering. And this is the charge that we filed in October 2017 and that the Swiss authority took over. So it's a little bit disappointing that our claim has been dismissed, but it's okay because whenever you look at it, it's our complaint that was first, and it's thanks to us that they started the investigation. So that's good enough.
Yeah, without the data and the testimony of Xavier, the Swiss authority could have never sentenced them. They couldn't have made a case like this. So it was thanks also to from the database explanation. He spent hours and days at Bern in Switzerland talking about how the money was stolen, where it went, and this helped a lot the Swiss authorities.
So maybe it's not officially our victory, but it's really our victory. But this is our first complaint. But I want Laura to explain about the UK complaint.
Yeah, we also tried to put a second complaint against Paul Finnegan, Dave Thomas, who were involved and hired by Petrosori, by Tarek and Patrick at the time. They were working as fake policemen, ex-SIS guy. And we tried to go to UK and to put a complaint, but nothing came out of.
No, to be precise, you went to you went to the police station with Claire.
With Claire,
she gave. Listen to that. Yeah. She gave all the evidences that we gave to the Swiss authorities, and thanks to her, there were hundreds of pages of evidences. There were recordings. That was, I think, end of 2017. Yeah. Can you tell the audience what was the outcome of this beautiful criminal filing in the UK?
Well, the policeman looked at me like she's crazy. He was
really?
Like,
yeah, they just sent a reference number by email.
He was eating his donut like she's crazy. And he said, okay, I took good notes, and I received a number with a complaint.
My goodness.
And I never had news since. So.
7 years ago.
Since?
Yeah, and Claire was with me, and she did put her complaint at the same time as me. So this is crazy. 7 years
ago, one of the biggest financial scam ever, the complaint that she filed, I joined later on, but she did it by herself. Hundreds of pages.
I think it's nearly 300 pages.
Recordings. But again, we live in a world, if you want to fight financial corruption or money laundering in London, you will have to empty half of central London.
They honestly, they couldn't care less.
No.
So, yeah.
Now, speaking of which, generally after financial scandals like this in the past, we've seen, right, where, for example, like in US, you had the case of the of the housing market crash and all these various economic downturns, and all that. Generally, after that, you see sort of changes in financial regulations and all that. Did you see any after the 1MDB scandal, considering that you're a banker yourself?
So, in terms of financial crimes, but that's not my main point. I started in 1987, my Swiss banking career. At that time, you could open a bank account with a gun in your pocket, with drugs on you, and money covered with blood. And that's a fact. So 40 years later, or more, 30 something, you have zillions of regulations. You have hundreds of compliance officers. Do we see less crimes? No, they just become bigger and bigger. The only difference that I saw, and we were really happy with that, is that before the sentencing of Petro Saudi end of last year, a lot of people, even specialized journalists, lawyers like Xavier, Laura, don't expect too much of the outcome of the Petro Saudi trial, because money crimes are not that bad in Switzerland. So we were worried about the outcome.
Yeah, it's the first time that you see this kind of sentence for a financial crime in Switzerland. So we are quite proud and happy about it, because it is the first time. It's not like US when you do a financial crime and you can actually have 50 or 100 years.
They would have been sentenced to 100 years.
But yeah, in the US, but in Switzerland, it never happened. So it's the first, and we're really happy about this.
Yeah. Definitely. Javier, then after that, in terms of from the Malaysian perspective, you then come back into light where you end up meeting the one and only Tun Mahathir.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you would like to share, but in the last interview, you sort of told the interviewer that you won't share what you spoke about. So I'm not going to ask it to you.
Maybe I said that. I don't remember having said that, but probably. We spoke about really no secrets, probably a couple of financial secrets, but it was about what was really Petro Saudi, who were these guys, did they really have the back of the Saudi government, where the money was sent, and those kind of details. But for me, maybe I said I don't want to reveal that, but there was really no secret. For me, it was a really emotional moment. I'm not a Malaysian citizen, so I'm not voting there. So but I was really impressed by Tun Mahathir.
Now, of course, after that, you also play sort of a role in terms of various, I think, investigations and all that. You are brought in to talk about, the things that you went through and all that kind of stuff. How involved were you in that lead up to that momentous 2018 general election where, we saw a change in government? How involved were you behind the scenes in terms of providing information or, talking or revealing what you knew or, to the agencies or to the parties or whatever?
So you mean before the G14?
Yes, 14, before G14, right?
Before the election
2018, yeah.
Before the election of Mahathir.
Yeah, before elections, yes.
I gave tens of hours of testimony in Switzerland. I gave all the evidences that I have. I did a few depositions there. The US also, through Laura, they had all the informations. I think Singapore requested my testimony. That was prior to the election of the defeat of Bian. But after the Mahathir was elected, yes, as you know, as you are well aware, I went a few times to the MACC. But first, I'm a Swiss citizen. I went back to Switzerland, so I gave my testimony to the Swiss authorities.
Interesting enough, at the end of this book, you do talk about you had an online spat with Prime Minister Najib, or former PM Najib, right? And I like what you said. You asked whether will these people ever, repent? In the people who you have, people like Patrick, people like Tariq, and all these people. Never.
Never. You know what they have done? They have been doing what they did to me, to my family, and they did to poor fishermen, to poor farmers. They have no morality. If one day Patrick repents, it's because probably it's a deal, and he say if you repent officially, you're out of prison. That would be his only motivation. They have no moral values. They send people to jail. They deprive cities of medical facilities just to pay for prostitutes and gambling and jets. They have no morality. People with no morality will not repent.
Yeah, yeah. Now, let's bring this back to modern day. As I don't know whether you are following what's happening here in Malaysia with the 1MDB cases.
Yeah.
So, what's your thoughts? You've seen Prime Minister Najib's former PM Najib's sentence reduce, the fine reduce. What's your thoughts?
I mean, again, I'm not an enemy of Mr. Najib Razak. I mean,
no, yeah, I'm just asking your opinion. Yeah,
that his sentence was cut by 12 on the SRC case, him being 70 something. I don't find that outrageous. I will find outrageous if he's not convicted and sentenced in the 1MDB case. Those are two different cases. I mean, I will know how efficient the Malaysian justice system is the moment Najib Razak will be sentenced for his involvement in the 1MDB case. He has been sentenced for the SRC. I mean, 12 years cut by 2. It's not up to me to judge. I don't find that outrageous. I just want to see now the 1MDB sentencing.
Okay. Yeah, we all do. Now, just to give an update, I think I'll go Laura on this. So, Laura, since we are talking about this book, what was it like to go back to to basically relive all those memories, those tiring times, the hardship in order to write this book? What was it like sort of going back into time in your mind to come up with the content for this book?
Well, it was very strange. It was between feeling happy that this was past, and at the same time, it was realizing what we've been through, because I think we only realized when we needed to take a step back when Xavier came out of prison. And when we started this book to write it, me on my side, Xavier on his side, I think this is the moment I realized what I've been through and how crazy it was. And to be honest, it was quite hard. It was really hard because I can't lie, I took about 3 years to write the book. It was because it was very difficult to relive these moments. But in a way, maybe it was a kind of therapy, and I think at the end, the first motivation of this book, it was for our son one day for him to be able to read what happened and
what his father went through, man. It's amazing. Yeah, definitely.
I have a slightly different answer for that.
Oh, please.
I mean, for me, it was difficult to write a book because I'm not a writer. I mean, everybody thinks it's easy to write a book. Good luck with that. It's a difficult experience, and not because of the souvenir or the memories. It's just because to put on a professional way a book, it's not that easy. But for me, I mean, it was also a pleasure writing this book and reading this book, because I discovered what Laura had went through by reading the book. She told me a few times it was difficult, but you don't realize how difficult it was by just listening to somebody. I had the evidences that she put in the complaint, the recordings. I could realize what an extraordinary job she did, how courageous she was, how tough she had to be for me. So it was for me, it was a nice experience.
Just one more. I mean, of course, currently there's a lot of uproar about Najib in Malaysia. I don't know whether you guys are following it and all that.
House arrest and so on.
House arrest and all the addendums and everything. That's the word of the day here in Malaysia. Addendums.
I read that this morning.
Yeah. Now, Najib has said recently that the 1MDB scandal was actually orchestrated to bring him down. It was orchestrated by many external parties, including the American Democratic Party.
Yeah,
right? There was one.
And they gave him 700 million for that. No? No, it's okay. I mean, people can say whatever they want. It's just up to us to believe that or not.
That's not, yeah, I do understand. No, but what I'm what I want to get at is, um, there are people on the ground, right, in Malaysia, who want him to be pardoned, who believe in him.
Yeah, sure.
What does that say about Malaysians who support him to you?
I mean, I would never criticize supporters of Najib and others. They are just human beings. Some of them are very easily manipulated. Some of them with, I mean, and I don't say it in a bad way. Believe me, we have been living in Thailand, and just to give you an example, in Koh Samui, for the local elections, the mayor or the candidates for being mayor, they give some petty money to the locals people, but I'm talking about $5, $10. And for the local people, they will vote for the one giving this small amount of money. So there is no real, when they vote for somebody or when they want somebody to be elected, they don't express the quality of the candidate. They they want Najib to be reelected because everybody has been telling them that Najib didn't do anything bad and that the money was a donation and that whatever they want to hear. And they believe that because some people genuinely want to believe things.
Thank you so much, Javier and Laura, for doing this. It's been very amazing talking about this book. I can't wait for the second one. Hopefully, you guys come on the podcast again to talk about the second one. Please, would love to talk to you all about it. Yeah, thank you so much. So, just Javier, sorry, Laura, you were saying? Sorry.
No, I was just saying. Yeah, tell me. Sorry.
Yeah. So, Javier, I just want to get your thoughts. I've got her thoughts on the book, but I want to get from you since if I buy this book, what can I expect when I read it?
I mean, an incredible human story with some financial details, yes, with some big names, yes, but what a family can go through, it can achieve just by being together and loved. Yeah, I do think the book is a great human experience book. Forget about the 1 MDB money and so on. There is a part of it, but the rest is how normal, decent people can cope with a lot of problems and be successful at the end. And that's a great example for the readers, and I hope for our son one day.
Yeah, it is. It certainly is.
Stay your ground, be honest, be true, and just keep on moving. You will succeed.
Thank you. Yeah, it is perfect. And I think on the cover here there is a quote by Mahathir who said, "This is a lesson for anyone who cares about combating corruption." I think that's the best way to sum it up. And your struggle, my goodness, I think in the book, what I think best sums it up is there is a phrase I'm not getting correctly, but you say how being a whistleblower is to juggle the truth with your own sense of security, your own sense of preservation, right? Because you have to give that all up and just fight for the truth, and that's what you guys have done. So thank you so much for being on the podcast. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the book. One day when you're in Malaysia, please sign it. I would love to.
We will.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to us. It was
it was fun. Yeah, it was fun. Thank you so much, guys. We'll catch you soon. So, guys, that was Xavier and Laura Justo. This is an amazing book. It is a family story, as what Xavier just said. I definitely drew that from the book. To me, it is a show of how two people can support one another in the most trying of times. I cannot imagine what Xavier went through in a Thai prison, dear Lord, and what Laura had to face with, with a baby, with families and all that, and all sorts of people trying to manipulate you. I mean, it's a fantastic story of a scandal that I think will forever live in infamy in Malaysian history. So the links will be shared in the description. The book is Rendezvous with Injustice by Xavier and Laura Justo. Please check out the links in all the clips that we'll be sharing on our TikTok, Instagram, YouTube as well, and get a copy from Gerak Budaya. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you all soon. Have a great week.